Hi everyone, this is Jeremiah from Frontier Precision. Today we're going to make a quick video on how to plan a photogrammetry mission for the FreeFly Astro with the mapping kit. The mapping kit has the A7R4 with the 24mm lens on it. So let's begin. In order for us to plan the mission, we're going to have to first go through and start our Herelink controller. And Arterion Mission Control should start right up. Once we're in Arterion Mission Control, we'll first have to go to the top left, and I'm going to click that right here, the little icon, and I'm going to go to Plan. Once I'm on Plan, we'll see a different screen. You'll see our mission settings on the right, in addition to a bunch of tools on the left in order for us to plan the mission, and then the details of our mission up top too. So the first thing we're going to do to plan this mission is, let's say we want to fly this baseball field right here. I'm going to first hit Pattern, and since this is a wide area that we're going to go through and collect data on, I'm going to click Survey. Right when I click Survey, it's going to ask me to go through and draw a polygon or draw my boundaries of where I want the mission to be. And I'm going to click on this guy right here. You can do a circle or you can do a line for waypoints, but usually I'll just do this. And then we are going to just drag these white nodes around the areas that we want to fly, or encompass the area that we want to fly. If we want to add a node, all we do is we hit that plus button right there, and another node is added. So I'm going to add one more right here, and then let's say one more right here. There we go. All right, so now we have our boundaries made. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the right and we're going to go through all the settings for the mission. So the first thing I'll generally do is I'll go to my mission settings, and this is where I'll go through and set my flight speed for the mission. For this mission, I'm going to fly it at about 8 meters a second. 8 meters a second is about 18 miles an hour. And my waypoint altitude, this will change once I set my mission altitude. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm going to put my flight speed at 8 meters a second. Once I do that, I'm going to hit Survey, and I'm going to go back to Survey, and we can go through and change some of these settings too. If you look at this right here, if you don't see the Sony A7R4 with the 24mm lens, that would mean we have to go through and select that camera. And for us to go through and do that, you just hit that little camera icon, and right here there's a little drop-down menu. You can click on that, and then you would just go through and select the Sony A7R4 with the 24mm lens designation. Once we do that, we can go back to the little squiggly line right there, and then we can check out our mission settings. In general, I'll leave the front and side overlap at 70. I will generally not go below 70, because if you go below 70, software will generally have a harder time getting those tie points between the images. So I'll generally leave them between 70 and 70. You can lower them if you really want to, but it's one of those, your mileage may vary, so your data will really depend on what you're flying and what type of terrain and what is actually there. But that's a topic for a whole nother video. But for now I'm going to leave those at 70-70. My altitude that I want to fly, I can go through and change that. So I'm going to go through and I'll fly at 80.1 meters. You also have the choice to plan the mission flight height by the ground sampling distance too. So if I wanted to do it with my specification of, let's say, 1.3 centimeters per pixel, I can do that. If I want it higher, I can just move it so it's higher. And then you can see it corresponds to the altitude too. But in general, I will plan my missions with the altitude. The next thing we have down here is going to be our angle. So this is going to be the angle of our flight line. So if you can see this, I can move this around and it's going to change the direction of my flight lines. You can change it back because I kind of like how that looks a bit better, as a little bit better coverage all over. Underneath that, we'll have the turnaround distance. So this is your margin. So the distance beyond the boundary that you set, it will fly. So if I increase it, you can see it increases the boundary, and then I can lower it too. For this setting, it really depends on you. For me, I would rather always fly a little bit more than the boundaries than come home and not have enough data. So I'll always overfly my boundaries just by a bit. Other than that, we have our rotate entry point right here. So this is in the case that you don't like where it's starting compared to where it ends. You can actually rotate that entry point by just hitting rotate entry point. And as you can see, it rotates that entry point. Down here under options, you also get the ability to go through and do images and turnarounds. You can also set it so you can refly at the 90-degree offset, so you can fly those perpendicular lines if you wanted to too. But now that we have those settings, there's really not much I need to change. I can go up here. There's one more thing that you can go through and change too if you want to, depending on the terrain you're flying. If it's mostly flat, it's generally not an issue, but if you're in an area where there's a lot of undulating terrain or things you could hit, you could always do terrain following too. If you want it to terrain follow, all you got to do is you go to the mountain and you hit that box right here, and now it's going to download that terrain data. And once it downloads that terrain data, bottom here, bottom left, you'll see a little T. If you hit that little T, you can actually get a little graph of the flight line and how it's going to fly over that given area right there. And then the last setting that you can go through and change is actually not much of a setting, but these are presets. So let's say you're going to fly these mission settings consistently and you don't want to go through and change them every time. You can actually go through here and save it as a preset. So once you get into here, you can click on that and then you can click your assorted preset and it'll preset all these settings for you so you don't have to. But once you have that all done, you can either choose to do a return point. So if I hit return right here, it's going to return to launch automatically. And besides that, that is actually planning the mission. So once we have our mission planned, we got to get that up to the drone or up to the Astro. And all we do to do that is we hit this button here that says upload required. So now it's uploading that mission onto the drone. And then now if we go to fly, we can see the mission is overlaid on top. And then all I have to do is slide to confirm and it's going to take off and fly. But I kind of want to not do that right now because it's actually right there. So hopefully this helps you out. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at uas@frontierprecision.com. And I'll talk to you guys later.